Where is my camera? There we go. Camera is not live. 1 second, guys. There we go. Cool. I think I could actually expand this a little bit. And maybe zoom this in a little bit more. How's that looking? Is that right? Let me see how this looks. 1 second, guys. If I'm blocking stuff. Sweet. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? So I was just about to dig in. So there's this document here. What page is this? 11. So this declaration of Young Jun John, probably murdered that name. Sorry. But if you see, it's 213 pages, and there's lots of documentation in this. So I'm just kind of going through it again. I've already read a lot of it, but I'm going through it again to kind of comb it with a fine-tooth comb to see, to better comprehend exactly what's going on in Korea, because a lot of this stuff has actually been now it's been translated from Korean to English, and this whole document's been updated. So we have everything from Korea in here, or a lot of stuff from Korea. We have like 202 pages from Korea, and other evidence. So I'm going to go over what I can tonight with this, and probably make a video. I want to make a video about this, what Nexon is asking for their injunction, the trade secrets, and then there's a few more documents in here, like the employment contract has been verified, translated it into English, so I don't have to look for a translator, and that's in here. It's a verified translation. So that should be in here as well. So there's a few other documents that are in here that I want to take a look at, that are all attached to this declaration, if that makes sense. So this is Nexon's application for temporary injunction against trade secrets and copyright infringement. So this is, I believe, Nexon against, Obligee is Nexon Corporation, and then so basically the plaintiff would be Nexon, and then Iron Mace is the defendant. I believe that's how it works in Korea. Obliger and obligee. Thanks, Mike. Thanks again. Yeah, Mike, thanks again for the super on the last stream. That was rad. The super comment, that was huge. You were my first official super comment. I can't I it's crazy. Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, how's my camera and how's everything looking? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me okay? So I'm going over Phantom, I'm going over, there's a bunch of if you look at court listener, so if you look at court listener, here, I'll just pull it up on my screen. Window cap. So if you look at court listener, there's all of these declarations. So that came in on the 22nd. There is one from Terry. There's one from Mr. Choi. There's one from Aaron J. Moss. And then there's the motion to dismiss. And then there's one from Jun Jian that was filed by the defendants, Mr. Choi. But this is Iron Mace's Korean lawyer's declaration. And there's a lot of other articles in this. So if you look at it, it's like 300 pages because it's 10 cents per page, and to buy it on Pacer, it's $3. But it's already been purchased. So like the way that this court listener works is, like, say I wanted this to be available on court listener. If I bought this through this, if I went and used my Pacer account and bought this, it would then show up on here, right? So since people like me and the other people looking into this case, like OnePeg and all of them, are buying all these documents, you could get them for free on Court Listener. Because what happens is, if you click that link and then you buy it, it'll download it from Pacer, and then now this website has it, right? That's kind of how Court Listener works. But yeah, so I'm looking at this document specifically, number 31. And if you look at it, let me switch back to the Acrobat. So if you look at this document number 31, it's 213 pages long, and it has a lot of information in it. And I don't think anybody's went over it in total in like a video or anything. But I'm not going to go over this. I'm more specifically, because I've already read this, I haven't really talked about it too much on a video. But I want to look at specific things in the files that he submitted with this, right? So Jun Jian, he submitted things like Exhibit 1. I think there's like 10 exhibits or something crazy. So Exhibit 1 is the application for temporary injunctive release or injunction against trade secrets. So this is the one that Nexon filed against Iron Mace from Korea. So this is Nexon Korea against Iron Mace, their filing. And then if you skip to, like, I think page 50, it's no, 38, 39. So yeah, it's, and then this is where is it? Separate sheet 2, trade secrets. So this is their the file system that I think they submitted. So this is, I don't know how many pages this is, but it's pretty long. And then there's a certification of translation of the declaration. So this is a person who translated it. I don't really care about that. But Exhibit 2 is the application for temporary injunction against business obstruction. So this is what Iron Mace filed against Nexon. So this is hugely important as well. So I'm going to be taking a look at that. And this is how many pages? I'm not sure. 21. So I'll go to like 70. And then there is the so this is all Iron Mace's evidence. So this has all the evidence that they're submitting from Korea in it, basically. But yeah, it's like 213 pages. But there's another document in here that I'm more specifically looking for, because I'm going to do an entire video about it. It is their Sub-conclusion? No, 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 no. I'm not going to go through all of this today. I'm probably going to pick one of the documents and then go through that. This is the verification of the translation. Here we go. So this is the no, that's not the employment. That's actually the Korean stuff. So the employment contract might not be in here. Thought it was. Thought I saw the employment contract in here. In English. Where did I see that? Sorry, I know I'm kind of scanning this stuff really quickly. Is there any more stuff in English? Here we go. Here we go. Annual salary contract. So there's employment contract is in here. It just looks weird as hell. But yeah, I do want to look at this again and in English. Because this is now has the verified translation right here. So this is like the verified I, Sumiko, the undersigned declare that I duly certified Korean court interpreter. So a Korean court interpreter interpreted it and translated it into English. So all the stuff that was in Korean in this is now translated. So this is confirm rights regarding work-related intellectual property. So this is a huge one that I want to look over. But yeah, this is all pretty much from a few days ago. So I'm gonna look at. Sorry, I'm reading chat. I'm trying to figure out what second monitor I want to get. And then once I get that, I won't have to just alt tab. Looks good, sounds good, sweet. Thank you. Thanks, Bjorn. Right. I miss the games a lot too. Like I just want to play the game. One of the reasons why I'm making this content is because I want to play. Do I think it's coming out in July? I kind of do. Um, I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll see early access sometime at the end of July. Most likely, we will have for sure have more information on whether or not we're going to have early access by July like 20th through 27th. Like that week is going to be huge for information. And we might even get early access that week. Depends on how well things go for Iron Mace. So the reason why I think that is because the early case conference in the United States is the 26th, July 26th. And that's when all of the pretrial hearings, or a lot of the pretrial hearings happen, like case dismissals, injunction, motions for injunction. All that stuff happens in the pretrial hearings. It's also when they set all of the rules and stipulations for discovery. And then the Korean injunction, preliminary injunction hearing is going to happen on July 19th in Korea. Get a cheap $40 TV from Walmart. I have like a big ass Dynex TV. But the holes on the back don't match up with my monitor stand. Like I could use it as a second monitor, but it just doesn't match up. Yeah, it's what mine's wall mounted right now, but it's like a foot above the my monitor. It's like more than that. It's like 2 feet above the monitor, closer to the ceiling. I use it to play games like Switch and stuff, or watch TV. I have a Secret Labs. This thing like lays back flat, so I could literally just lay my chair back like and just watch TV. So I'll just sit back and just zone out, and it my wall mount pivots and extends. Um, so yeah, and I have like this little footrest. I got this like cushioned footrest for my chair. Yeah, it's pretty. Oh, hey, bird, come in. She wants to play. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna jump back into the court docs. But I think it's on 11, the one I want to start with. So I want to see what Nexon is saying in their injunction request in Korea. That's huge. That's going to be super important to me. I also want to take notes on it. So let me open up this document really quick. I think my cat wants to say hi. Do you guys want to say hi to Birdie? Hey, Bird, come in. Oh, come here. Come here. Here you go. Yeah. There. Whoa. Don't fall. Come on, Bird. What you doing? There you go. Okay. Yeah, her name's Bird. She hunts birds. Good job, Bird. Um, yeah, so I really want to look at this because this is going to have a lot of good information. It's going to be a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, if you guys see anything while I'm reading through this that you think stands out, feel free to hit me up in the comments or send me a message on Discord if there's something you think I miss. But yeah, I'll kind of jump right into it. I don't want to. We know who the attorneys are. A lot of them. Their Korean attorneys are pretty good. Their Korean legal team's a little bit smaller, I believe. Ow, bird. Um, so this is Nexon asking Iron Mace, or asking the courts to put the injunction against Iron Mace in Korea. And the Iron Mace lawyers submitted this as evidence. Here, bird, do you want to get it? Go get it. Stop scratching me. Um, so the obliger would be the defendant. So the defendant, Iron Mace Company Ltd, shall not make the game release under the title Dark and Darker available to the general public, nor shall it promote, advertise, adapt, reproduce, distribute, transmit, or provide, assign, or license it to any third party. So that's their main ask. That's ask number one. They don't want it going anywhere. at least for the purpose of this injunction. And that's pretty common. That's always going to be like the injunctive. If you're seeking injunctive release, that's what you're asking for, or injunctive relief. That's what you're asking for. And then the defendant shall not use each of the information listed separate sheet 2 or provide or disclose to any third party. So it's basically saying they can't give out their code or use it. I believe sheet 2 is the list of code that they don't want provided or disclosed, or information they don't want disclosed. And then the defendant shall release from their possession and cause to be released the custody of a bailiff authorized by the plaintiff, documents and files retaining. So basically, give a bailiff any documents and files relating to each of the information listed on sheet 2 that are kept in their homes, offices, headquarters, sales offices, factories. So basically anything in Iron Mace's possession that relates to the game, they want it, and they want them to give it to a third-party person in the court, who would then give it to Nexon. So if obliger, which would be the defendant, so if Iron Mace violates the order in paragraph 1, it shall pay 500 million won for each day of the violation. How much money is that? $500 million won. I'm gonna look that up. I want to know how much money they want. So that is what? That can't be true. So they want Iron Mace to pay basically $379,000 every day that it doesn't hand over the information if the injunction goes through. 400, like almost 400 grand. That's insane. And then if the obliger, so if Iron Mace violates the order in paragraph 2, they're requesting a fifth of that per day for each violation of this. So so if they violate paragraph 1, which is releasing the game, they want 400 grand for each day the game is released. If Nexon's injunction goes through. That's bonkers. 400 grand. Okay, I gotta take that note. So yeah, 400 grand is not, that's a huge chunk of money. Or what was it, 387,000? And then, so whatever 100 million would be $75,000 per day. Or yeah. And that was in case they. So for each day that the information is disclosed or used by a third party. So basically, like if Iron Mace gave me Dad to release it in the United States, and they're like, "Here's our game," and then I released it, Iron Mace would have to pay $75,000 a day. That's bonkers. Yeah, I mean, this is just if they get the full injunction. But I do want to know what their ask is and like what their stipulations are for the Korean case. And they also, of course, want Iron Mace to pay for all the applications and stuff the cost of this application shall be borne by Iron Mace. So that's what Nexon is asking for. Should they win in Korea in the injunction case? So if the injunction goes through, just 100% goes through in Korea, this is what Nexon wants enforced. And in my opinion, that's probably not going to happen. Like, I don't see this like any way in hell that this is going to be enforced as is. Like, there's no way. But then this goes into the reason for the application. And remember, this is the Korean. This is in relation to the Korean injunction case. So, Nexon Korea Corporation, hereinafter referred to obligee company. So the plaintiff. So every time you see this right here, that just basically means plaintiff. Is a game company established in 1994. Not really important. Certified corporation registered Nexon Korea Corporation. So they are the license holder, the copyright holder at Nexon Korea. And it's not Nexon US, nobody else. It's just Nexon Korea, and they're the one filing all the lawsuits. So that's also important. The plaintiff company has been providing and servicing various excellent game content, such as The Kingdom of Winds, Maple Story, and Kart Rider, Mario Kart ripoff. Cool. Yeah, Nexon. Good job on those wonderful titles. I mean, Maple Story was cool when it came out, but nothing else really that they've done has been anything significant in the United States. They make all their money from Tencent. Yeah, Red. If the Korean injunction goes through, like, let's speak completely hypothetical here. If the Korean injunction goes through in full, then why is that happening? So if the Korean injunction goes through in full, then there we go. Iron Mace is going to have to settle, most likely, or fight the case out until the end and not have any income, basically. They would for sure want to settle at that point. So if, like, basically the way I see it is if this were to happen, if this stuff right here were to happen, and Nexon was awarded a full injunction and all of this stuff was imposed, effectively that means that Iron Mace then has to settle or the game is dead, because they're going to be fighting this case out for years, right? So I don't really think that's going to happen, but yeah, if this injunction went through like this, that would be RIP or immediate settlement for all of the money. However, if the opposite happens and Iron Mace wins and they get theirs in full and Nexon is told basically to fuck off and that Iron Mace can release early access and basically run their business as normal, Iron Mace could fight this out forever and have enough money, because they're going to make like $100 million in the first year off of Dark and Darker. And not profit. They'll probably end up taking home like 30. But yeah, like that's still like $30 million, that they could use to fight this case. Or it would drastically lessen the amount of money they would settle for with Nexon. Bird, stop scratching my hip. Yeah, let's get back to it. So the defendants, the defendants, Mr. Choi and Terrence Park, hereinafter collectively referred to individuals who were engaged in game development at Nexon since joining Nexon on April 16th, 2018. Mr. Choi had been performing duties such as game development director since August 2020. He's been performing duties as director of Nexon Company's new FPS RPG. game development project herein referred to as Project P3. The game being developed through the P3 project is referred to P3 Game. As a team leader of the new P3 team in the root office of Nexon development headquarters. Okay, cool. So he was the lead developer. Or the director of P3. We all know that. From December 2020 to 2021. So Mr. Choi started working at Nexon in 2018, right? So I want to kind of keep track of this timeline. Yeah, I agree that this is bigger corporation trying to bully the small guys. You don't ask for this kind of money if you're not trying to, like that's insane. Yeah, and yeah, you're completely right. Cabane, Cabian. I don't know how you say that. Um, but yeah, they're making their game more and more different than P3 every time they make an update. So they like eventually it's just not going to resemble P3 at all, right? Except for like aesthetics. Like that's really it. And the fact that it's first person medieval, like that's really going to be the only stuff that resembles P3 at all. Um, and then August of 2020, he became director. August 2020, got that. And then, okay, so here we go. So he became director in August, working for P3, game development project through P3 as a team leader at P3 at their development headquarters. And then they claim that from December of 2020 through June of 2021 is when he leaked information. So what I'm interested in is from December 2020 through June 2021, defendant Mr. Choi unauthorized leaked more than 11,000 materials, including build files, source code, which are code trade secrets related to Nexon, Nexon's P3 game, and furthermore engaged in acts of malfeasance in office, such as asking P3 team members to leave the company. So they're claiming that's when he also asked everybody to leave. Okay. Cool, that's good information. So let's see. So Mr. Choi's action caused Nexon to suffer tremendous damage, including the suspension of the P3 project, and Mr. Choi was dismissed from Nexon around July 2021. So they don't mention a specific day. This is very suspicious. Around July 2021. Why don't they give a specific date? Why don't they give a specific date for any of this stuff? Like, they could have named the day that he was promoted to director. They could have dated the day that he was. I mean, they do name the date, April 16th, 2018, when he was hired. They don't name his promotion date. They don't name the exact date of when P3 started, and they don't name the exact date of when he's fired. Just around July 2021. Do they not know when they fired him? So, yeah, exactly. A lot of the stuff that I mean, I kind of went over this in my last video with the evidence video. A lot of the stuff that they had that they're using as evidence was never included, was never in the game, was never in P3. So how are you going to argue, or how is Nexon going to argue that uh, Iron Mace is stealing assets that were planned for P3, but they were never in any build? Like, you can't argue that. Um, so unless they could show proof of that, like, I want to see evidence. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Right? Where's the proof that these files were actually in the game, not just screenshots from Unreal Marketplace? Like, where is this stuff in a game? Give us build files dated with modification times and everything. Like, where is all that stuff? Um, and why are they lying on stuff like this? Sometime around July 2021. Cool. No exact date. Yeah, right. Nexon, there's no way in hell. I fired people from like my I used to own a company that made like beard oil and stuff, like stuff to keep your beard soft and hair products. And I fired my friend. I could probably pull up the exact date that I fired my friend on. He used to help me work at like vendor booths and stuff, and he was slacking off and not doing his job, so I let him go. And I could probably pull up, like, it's been like 6 years since that happened, and I could probably still pull up the date that he was let go. So it's like, this shit's like, no, it's completely unrealistic that Nexon doesn't know the exact date Mr. Choi was fired. Um, and then so Terrence Park joined on May. I'll just copy it. There we go. On May 1st, 2020. So okay, and has been working on game planning and other tasks since then, and has been working on development as a subgroup lead, so part lead of P3. So he was like directly under Mr. Choi. Um, so Mr. Park, so Terrence left from Nexon on August 10th, 2021. So fired or quit. So they have the exact date for Terrence. Why don't they have Mr. Choi's exact date for when he was fired? So they pulled his up. So shortly after Mr. Choi, shortly after Mr. Choi was fired, and then October, they know the exact date that Iron Mace was founded. So you founded Iron Mace on October 20th, 2021. Yeah, this is some shady shit. Yeah, Nexon. So yeah, um, I'll actually thanks. That's a good point. So I'm just gonna copy and paste that from the. Wait. Yeah, they're saying that they canceled P3 because of Mr. Choi's actions. They said it right here. Um, Mr. Choi's actions caused Nexon to suffer tremendous damage, including the suspension of the P3 project. So right here, they're just straight up claiming that Mr. Choi leaving is why the. So basically, them firing Mr. Choi is why they stopped. Is according to them firing Mr. Choi and supposedly leaking trade secrets and asking team members to leave the company is why P3 failed. So them firing Mr. Choi is why P3 was killed. So they fired him without having any kind of backup in place to continue the project. That doesn't make sense. If you know that you're going to fire somebody, if I'm the CEO of Nexon and I know that the director of a project is violating the law and they're going to be fired, right? And I'm going to fire them and then sue the shit out of them. And they happen to be working on a game that I think is worth up to $100 million. There is no way in hell that I risk that project and don't put people in place under them and get them and like find replacements and make sure that project is stable before I fire Mr. Choi. There's no way in hell. Like, no, there's no intelligent business person on this planet that would just offhandedly fire them, especially if they know that they're already talking. If they already know that they're talking to people about trying to take the whole team with them, I would replace the whole freaking team, make sure they were stable, and then fire Mr. Choi, and that would be it. Like, there's no way in hell. Like, this is the more I read that Nexon puts out, the shadier and shadier this whole thing gets. But yeah, so October 20th, Terrence forms Iron Mace, and to operate the game software production and distribution business like Iron Mace, and took the office as corporate representatives of Nexon. Plaintiff Exhibit 2, Iron Mace certified copy of corporate register. Okay. As such, the obligation was part of the. So, as such, the defendants were part of Nexon's P3 team, which left the company around July of 2021 through August 2021, or now. Okay. So that's important. I want to keep track of dates really closely. So they're saying that the team, basically the whole P3 team, at least the important people from P3 team, left between July 2021 and August 2021, and they're all now part. All of them are now part of Iron Mace, which is, as far as we know, true. Now, my question is, did the P3 team leave because Mr. Choi was fired? Because this timeline certainly would suggest that. If your director is fired and the person directly under them quits and they go form a new company, like it, and those two people are like, hey, fuck Nexon, like let's go do our own thing. I don't see why those people would leave unless something was wrong. If I didn't like my boss and thought my boss was shady and doing something against the law, why would I leave my comfy job with a union to go work in a small startup game studio that's being funded by people's families? Like, that doesn't make sense. Especially if it's happening directly after the dude is fired. Like, this is crazy. Yeah, um, these people are on their free. I don't know what their contracts look like. I haven't read that yet, which we'll get into it because I haven't seen the American translation, or at least a certified one. So, but it does seem like a lot of this stuff, it doesn't make sense, and these people are under no obligation to stay at Nexon. Like, and leaving Nexon for a startup game studio with very little funding is like the riskiest thing you could do. Um, Especially if they're asking people who join their company for money. Because they asked, like, a lot of the 10 employees that left to go work at Iron Mace, they asked their family members. A lot of their family members are the ones who gave them the initial funding to make Dark and Darker. So if I was like, hey, Bjorn, you want to make a game studio? Oh, by the way, can you get your mom to give me $100,000? Like, like what, dude? Like, that's not, no. There's no way in hell. If that happened to me, I'd laugh my ass off. Like what? Like what, dude? Um, yeah, yeah, no, not unless things were terrible at Nexon. I don't think that in any world does that happen. Um, okay, so cool. On to the next page. Oh wait, what does this say? Build file. Okay, build files, source code. This is all what they're referring to in those. Okay. On the other hand, Iron Mace is a company established on October 20th, 2021. We already established that, and is a corporation registered. Cool. Supply and services business, game software development, supply and services business, and is understood that about 10 members of the P3 team, including the two defendants and their defendant's company. Okay, cool. And also, if you remember from yesterday's video, according to Mr. Choi and Terrence, in a sworn statement in the United States, said that the 10 members that left to Iron Mace were the only 10 members that were on the team for P3 until the very end. And then right before the very end, they tried to get a new 10 members in, like I said I would do. But then they fired Mr. Choi and Terrence left, and then all of those 10 members quit. And those, my assumption is that the 10 members that they hired on at the end of the P3 project had no fucking clue what to do. They probably just threw 10 new devs on there and were like, figure it out. And they were like, we don't know any of this code. We don't know how this level is designed. We don't know where any of these assets came from. We don't know any of this stuff. It would be like me just sending my game's files out to somebody who's a game dev and just being like, "Hey, figure it out. Can you finish this project?" with nothing but some like internal files to work on, like, and some internal notations. Um, Another thing I thought was funny that is kind of anecdotal is that there's a image where it's in the complaint. There's an image where they're showing all the P3 assets, and in the file at the top of that image, it says that the file was created by Terrence. So Terry was the one who created it, and then it has a modified by and on date, but the person who modified it and the date it was modified is blurred out. So you can't see who modified it or when they modified it. And if Mr. Choi deleted all of the files, how do they still have Terrence's file about with all the assets? If all of those files were deleted by Mr. Choi and that's what caused you to scrap the game, then how do you still have those files to prove it in court? Like, how do you still have them? Where did they just magically reappear on a new server? Like, what happened? Like, none of this stuff is making any sense. Oh, shit. Thanks, Overtasks. This is, I mean, hell yeah, I'm going to do whatever I can. This is amazing. Thank you very much. How do I pin this? Where do I pin? How do I pin these? No, I don't want to put user on timeout. Let me pin it. Oh, it won't let me. Oh, because that's already up at the top. Well, thank you. I mean, holy shit, dude. Thank you. That's crazy. I don't even know what to say. You guys are freaking awesome. Like, you guys are making my day. This is incredible. Um, yeah, you guys are amazing. Like, I didn't really get into this for money or, to try to become popular or whatever people get into this for. I just kind of I like doing this type of research, and I really like this game, and I really want this game to come out, and I really like this community. But I had 300 people on my channel like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like now almost at 900. And people like Overtasked and Mike are giving me super thanks, and I just don't even know what to say. That's crazy. Yeah, thank you guys. This is nutty. But yeah. Sorry, where was where was I? So on the other hand, Iron Mace is a company established on October 20th. We just covered that, and 10 members of the P3 team left for Iron Mace. The importance and urgency of this case. Mr. Choi did an unauthorized leak of more than 11,000 key trade secrets related to. So what are these exactly? I would like to know exactly what trade secrets they are. Are they using the word trade secrets for files? Because if they have 11,000 trade secrets, like, that's insane. Because if 10,999 of those trade secrets are all source code files, then really he just leaked one file, and it's the game. But I would like to see what they're referring to in these trade secrets. And then they go on to say that he used and consulted for their reference to create Dark and Darker. That is extremely similar to P3 in an unusually short period of time, and then they are now attempting to release it. So, the funny thing about this and this claim is that they're claiming that P3 was used to develop Dark and Darker, right? They're claiming that it was built on Dark and Darker, or P3 Dark and Darker was built on P3 source code. Is basically what they're claiming. Um, but according to Mr. Choi, Terrence, and even Nexon themselves, the game wasn't in anywhere near being released. It wasn't even in a stable format to where another team could recognize what state the game was in and continue the project without Mr. Choi. So, if the game was basically in an unrecognizable state when it was canceled, does Nexon also then think that Dark and Darker was built from this same code in a year? Like this whole train of thought is just confusing and doesn't really make like Nexon is kind of just saying words. They're just like saying words that look good and hoping that something good happens for them. It just doesn't like the time frames and everything just don't add up. It would be much easier to start over and just pull like all of the good aspects, like pull like the good files, like start an entirely new project. Like if I was to do exactly what Nexon is accusing Ironbase of, is I would go, okay, here's all the files for this, and there's these things called blueprints in Unreal, and it's basically like code but without actual typing code. You could just like string a bunch of blueprints together or nodes together, and it essentially functions as code. And you could take these blueprint strings and you could literally copy them and then paste them from one game to the next. That would make more sense than building on top of a piece of shit project that had no identity. It would be much faster, or it would be much faster to learn the mistakes of the first one and then just start over from scratch and make it a lot more efficient. Like it would be infinitely faster just to do it that way. It would be a detriment to Dark and Darker to use P3's source code for anything other than like copying like what I would do is the interaction mechanic for like like interacting with doors and chests and stuff, like just copy and paste that. Sure, the blueprints will be exactly the same. You don't really need to modify it. If it's as efficient as possible, it's going to be good to go. But all of that stuff, if you already know how to code that in Blueprint, it takes like 20 seconds anyway. Like you could literally code an interaction system in probably like 30 minutes if you know what you're doing. Like, why even go through the hassle of copying, like opening up two different build files and copying and pasting stuff? It just doesn't make sense. Especially if they only worked on P3 for less than 11 months, according to their own timeline. Like this, something's not adding up. Um, and then Nexon has been developing P3 game with a huge amount of cost, effort, and time. The P3 project started the prototyping stage in August 2020. And in recognition of this potential for success, it entered the headquarters test on April 26, 2021. So this is in direct opposition of another statement they made where it was only under... Oh, no, I guess that makes sense. Milestone review on April 29th, 2021. Pre-production on May 11th, 2021. So I'm just going to copy this whole paragraph into my notes and then clean it up later. Um, so kickoff of the formal project in June 2021. In particular, so June. So when was But Mr. Choi was fired in July. So this is my assumption. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly the timeline. But if their official kickoff for the formal project was in June 2021, that's when the other 10 people joined. Sometime in June. I can almost guarantee it. They probably added 10 people to the team sometime in June, and then Mr. Choi was fired in July, like the next month. So they were there for a month. So those 10 people that are still helping with, like, probably the people that are helping build all this case, like getting all the information for the case, were on P3 for less than a month. A month, maybe two. This is insane. Hold on, I'm gonna go over some comments real quick. Yeah, deleting files on software hardly deletes them. Just deletes them locally from your computer. Deleting files from a repository or Git or a server always leaves a trail. True. I've been wondering too exactly what those files are. Yeah, they're just like exactly, Joel. They're just trying to make everything sound scary as hell. What up, Tadpole? Yeah, exactly, Chevy Rida. So they absorbed. So for if you guys missed it, I run over this in another video. That Terrence had his own studio, had his own. He owned ThingSoft, or he was partial owner of ThingSoft, and they absorbed his studio. Took a lot of the members, and I think some of them worked on P3 with Terrence, um, and are now I think at Nexon or at Iron Mace. Um, and the game, this Dark and Darker, according to Mr. Choi and Terrence, was already their idea. So, or it was both of Mr. Choi and Terrence's idea. Like they came up with this idea together for the game and got it greenlit from Nexon. So what happens is, at least is what it seems like, is Nexon buys ThingSoft. Mr. Choi and Terrence already know each other, have an idea for a game they've been tossing around. Now Terrence works at Nexoft. They say, hey, let's make this game. Let's propose it to the boss. It gets a green light. They get some of the guys from ThingSoft together with Mr. Choi and some other people from Iron Mace and make a 10-person team to make the game they want to make. And then Nexon shit cans the idea and then sues Dark and Darker for trade secrets. Like, that's fucking insane. But that, to me, that's almost, it seems like a plausible situation. I don't know if it's true. That's me speculating an opinion, but it seems plausible, possible, and somewhat plausible. But a lot of their stuff is shady as hell. But yeah, and all of these assets come from third party. They're all from Unreal Engine. But yeah, the kickoff, yeah, like yeah. So the kickoff is really when they added those extra people. Um, and they were only on it for like a less than a month, which is hilarious. Um, so under these circumstances, Mr. Choi intensively leaked without authorization source code related to P3. Leaked to who? During the period of May. So I'm going to copy paste this. Who did they leak the information to? Who did Mr. Choi leak it to? Where is that information? Because if they're talking about him sending it to his private server, if he didn't send it to anybody else, he didn't really leak it. Now, did he? Without authorization, source code, and coaxed the members of P3 to leave the team, to leave the company en masse, and create a similar game during the period from June 23rd, 2021 to October 25th, 2021. So Choi and Terrence subsequently departed from Nexon and established the Iron Mace for the purpose of developing game software. Yeah. So I've never once seen who they accuse Mr. Choi of leaking stuff to. So that might be in this. But does anybody else have any information on who the... Yeah, how was it leaked and who was it leaked? They don't go into, they leave a lot of this stuff completely vague intentionally. Like this is a super vague statement. Like Mr. Choi intensively leaked without authorization source code related to P3 for a month, but yet they don't go into any details at all about what was leaked, who it was leaked to, or any of that stuff. And they don't even have, usually, like if they expand upon a topic, they'll have like a little number next to it. Like this, the first test has like a little 7, where it'll be at the bottom of the page, like 7 right here. They'll have a little explainer paragraph. So they don't even expand upon it later on down in here, down in the footer. So yeah, so they probably don't even expand it unless it's in this following paragraph. P3 leaves the company in mass. Subsequently departed from Nexon to establish their own company. Yep. And then Iron Mace developed Dark and Darker game at breakneck pace without ever going through the game planning phase, which could have taken several years or more in the case of longer development. So, why didn't it take several years for them to do Iron Mace's planning phase? Or was that all that was done? Was that first year just the planning phase? And they didn't have any actual development of it other than some screenshots? Like, this is a bold statement to make when you guys got to the kickoff in less than a year. Like, what the hell? And released the first test via Steam in August 2022, just 9 months after its founding. At Steam, announcement and released a highly refined Dark and Darker game in late September 2022. However, Dark and Darker is very similar to P3. Of course, we know that. Not only is its backstory genre, so they state genre here. So, and we already know this to be questionable. I'm gonna copy this. But also its specific components. So, and then they claim that this, where's 6? The breakneck pace. So, their claim about their breakneck pace is that it's like going straight to build the foundation of a huge building without going through the steps to create a blueprint. That's bullshit. Do you know how long it took me? Try to guess how long it took me to make my dev doc solo. I'm a solo developer. The dev document for my game took me all but a day, a single day, to make the dev document because I already knew what the game was going to be. I already knew in my brain what it was going to be. I had been thinking about it for a long time. I already had the idea. I already knew what game elements I wanted in it, what type of game, what genre, all that stuff. So it took me a day to hammer out the dev doc. I've modified it a little bit here and there, but for the most part, the dev document hasn't really changed. So that's hilarious. That's a completely made up opinion and statement. There's like zero fact in this at all. And then a game-related platform operated by Valve Corporation in the United States allows users to purchase and manage games. Yeah, so there's Steam. And then these tests are to run feedback from users. Okay. What's that pertaining to? Right here. The first play test. And they had that backwards. So first test should be 7, but they have it backwards in their own fucking filing. Like, this is just basic. So they have released the first test, and they have that in relation to 7, and then 7 states that the first test is a gaming-related platform operated by Valve, and then Steam is these tests are run to test game performance balance and to get ratings and feedbacks from users. So, yeah, they can't even keep their own documentation straight, which is hilarious. What's up, Nick Gaming? How you doing today? Their lawyers had to have seen this. I mean, their the their lawyers had to have seen this and paid somebody to proofread it. Like, it's yeah, Flame Arts. I do think that will we will at the very least know whether or not we're going to see early access by the end of July. We might see early access middle to end of July, but we'll at least know the likelihood that we will get early access by the end of July. So yeah, I'll repeat what I pointed out. So if you look at this last statement right here, or this last paragraph, they have Iron Mace developed Dark and Darker game at a breakneck pace, and then they have that cited as number 6, right? So that correlates to this number 6 down here at the bottom. And it says it's going straight to build the foundation of a huge blueprint building without going through the steps to create a blueprint. So this is basically like, for more information on this statement, look at this at the bottom, right? It's like a little citation. Without ever going through the game planning phase, which could take several years or longer. They're saying that Dark and Darker released the first playtest, and then they have the citation as number 7. So if you go down and read citation 7, it's actually referring to Steam. So that means that this wasn't proofread, because this has nothing to do with Steam. And then it says they released their first test via Steam. They cite Steam as 8, so people can know what Steam is. And then they said that Steam is a way to test and track performance balance and get rating from the users, which they basically just mix these up. It's just a simple clerical error, typo. This 7 and 8 should have been switched, but it's just like, you're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to write these documents. Is basically their entire job is to write these documents and then argue in court, right? And they're messing stuff up that's this small. Like, and this isn't even the first, like, I've already pointed out we're on page 4 of this document, really like page 6, but like 4 or like page 4 of 39. And we found how many discrepancies already? Uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 12 in 4 pages. Like, this is incredible. This is just in the amount of mistakes in this is incredible. Um, yo, what up, Zeno? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't. I'm like getting mad on the behalf of Nexon, and I hate those guys because if I this was my company and these were the people representing me, I would be livid right now. Um, well, we're reading through right now. We're reading through Nexon's application for the injunction in Korea. Um, it's been translated by the U.S. courts, so I'm just looking over the official certified U.S. translation. Um, and out of 4 pages, we've found 12 errors already. I mean, honestly, I have no idea. They could get a mistrial based on inadequate representation because they're idiots or lawyers. Or I mean, their lawyers are idiots. They're idiots or lawyers. Um, yeah, but I have no idea. How do you have 12 mistakes in 4 pages when you're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars? Um, but yeah, I'm gonna move on. Actually, I'm gonna take a quick like 2 minute break. Oh shit! I just smashed into my. I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. What up? I'm back. Does Dark and Darker connect to my Wi-Fi? Yeah. So the translations are done by an interpreter, a court interpreter. They sign off on this under penalty of perjury. So all of this it has to be accurate. Um, so what ends up happening is in the original document that got sent in from Iron Mace's lawyer, it had a bunch of stuff in Korean that's also in this document, and then the court translated it and added it to the filing. So I'm going over the English translation. Um, but yeah, so Iron Mason created Dark and Darker by misappropriating Nexon's trade secrets, which were unauthorizedly leaked by Mr. Choi. As discussed later, this constitutes an act of infringement of the P3 game work product and an act of unfair competition by unauthorized use of work product. The most challenging part of the game development is arguably the initial planning phase. Bullshit. Um, the most challenging part of game development is making it playable at scale in multiplayer. uh, server engineering is the most difficult part, in my opinion. Where the core goals of the entire game, such as a theme, setting, worldview, are envisioned, and the gameplay and fun elements that run through them are validated. The game's service and the market are the ones that have survived this grueling process, and that is why they are now available to users. So this is true if you are Nexon. This is true if you are EA. This is true if you are Blizzard. This is true if you are a massive, massive video game company. Because you guys, I mean, because like these large megacorps for like video game megacorporations, um, have acquired so many ideas that it takes them forever to validate which ones are actually going to make them money. There's a very rigorous process usually involved where they do a bunch of market testing before they even have an idea of what the game's going to look like. Like the end, before they even know what the end product is going to look like, they've already done like market testing and like with like 10 like a whole bunch of variables. Like, hey, what if we did a first person dungeon crawler, but we made it a battle royale, right? And then they do like an A/B test with a market sector. Like they have people come in or they do like a questionnaire and they're like, what would you like better, right? Like a battle royale in this theme or a extraction game in this theme? And they judge the market through doing that kind of stuff. And they do a lot of that stuff early on. And it is pretty time consuming and sucks. Um, so I guess there could be a point to argue where like, because all of that stuff had already been done by Nexon, uh, Iron Mace already knew that this game was going to sell, but they didn't end up using it because the genres aren't the same. Uh, the classes aren't strictly the same. The mechanics aren't strictly the same. There's a lot of stuff that is different. So a lot of that marketing data that would be a hard trade secret W for Nexon has been changed. So it's not that because it's not the same game, and there's a lot of differences in genre. Even some of the aesthetic is different. Like some of the mechanics are different. The player counts are different. Like there's a lot of stuff that's different from between P3 and Dark and Darker. Admittedly by Nexon, and especially after what we saw with all the evidence from yesterday's video or the day before. But yeah, this is kind of bonkers. The game serviced and the market are the ones that survive, blah, blah, blah. Far too many projects are abandoned because they can't withstand the limitations, time, money, and other resources required to endure reiterative process, trial, and error during this initial phase, the planning phase. You mean like Dark and Darker did? Like you guys fucking canceled P3? You turds? As employed, like you guys they admitted to canceling it, and then now they're trying to say that it passed all of this stuff? No. You canceled it. If it passed all this stuff and you were that invested into it, you guys would still be making it, regardless of what Dark and Darker is doing. These guys are a bunch of crooks. Iron Mace's goal was to make Dark and Darker and Rise or sync with it. Yeah, their entire this game was their entire goal to begin with. Yeah, Nick. I mean, like that's pretty much what it seems like. Right? Because Dota went into Dota 2 and then into LoL. And yeah, it was Dota and then Dota 2 or Dota 2 and League of Legends, right? So Blizzard, if I remember that story correctly, The dude who made Dota approached Blizzard to make an actual game out of it because it was so popular, and Blizzard basically told him to fuck off. Um, that it wouldn't succeed. Yeah, Dota was a lot of StarCraft and then Warcraft 3. Yeah, exactly. Um, I used to play the Warcraft 3 mod all the time. And there was also like the Vampire Survivor one or whatever, where like one person was like a werewolf or a vampire. That was pretty popular at the time. Um, and then you had like whatever 6 or 10 other people that were all on the map with you, and you guys had to survive nighttime while the vampire tried to kill everybody. It was like hide and seek, but in Warcraft 3. Um, and it was a lot of fun. Like it was rad. It was a rad game. And then the creator of Dota, Defense of the Ancients, went to Blizzard and was like, "Hey, you want to make this into a real game? Like we have millions of players, or whatever." And Blizzard was like, "No, it won't be profitable. See you later. See you later, kid." And then Dota 2 and League of Legends got made, and we all know what happened there. Riot is like one of the biggest gaming studios in the world now. Like these studios are idiots. And then Blizzard tried to sue the Dota dudes. No, I don't think Nick. I don't think P3 would come out. I honestly think me and somebody else were talking. Can't remember who it was. Me and somebody else were talking, and we think that a lot of the stuff from P3 was actually added to War, whatever, Warhaven or whatever the heck that new game is that was just on Next Fest. Can't remember what it's called. Yeah, me and some other person were talking, and we think that a lot of the stuff was pushed into Warhaven, and just like they basically, it almost seems like they took P3 and then chopped it up into pieces, and said, we're gonna take the battle royale extraction elements and send them over to Tarkov in space. They're making that Tarkov in space game, and then um, they were like, we're gonna take the medieval fantasy aspects and the action combat and send those over to Warhaven and like split it up, and that's also fairly common in some studios. Like if they think they have good gameplay elements and stuff, they'll split them up and send them off into other projects. Um, yeah, like I said earlier, Lord, like I said earlier, I think my cautiously optimistic guess would be sometime towards the end of July. We will definitely know more about early access sometime between July like 20th through July 27th, because that's when the early case conference and the Korean court case, the Korean injunction case date are. Um, I think Iron Man. I think Nexon does like really doesn't give a shit about P3 or Iron Mace all that much, or even Dark and Darker. I think that they saw upwards of $100 million in the first year in gross revenue, or at least in like sales. So like $100 million of sales from Dark and Darker if playtest 4 statistics were used, if not more. And I think that they were like, well, I want 20% of that for doing literally nothing, and it would be very easy for us to get that through a settlement. So they just sued the shit out of them. But yeah, as employees of Nexon, the largest gaming company in Korea, uh, the defendants had been developing P3 game with wealth of support and stability within the walls of Nexon. As P3 game was nearing the end of its planning phase, the defendants became convinced of the marketability of P3 game and wanted to leave Nexon and create a game that was very similar to the P3 game, and hog the huge profits themselves alone, because the guys from IM are greedy. They're greedy little glizzy goblins, according to Nexon. To this end, they leaked materials related to P3 project. To who? Um, Encouraged the team members to leave the company en masse and actually formed a new entity, Iron Mace, which utilized and referenced early planning stages that had been conducted within Nexon. And in approximately 9 months, a period of time which that would have been impossible. So they claim it would have been impossible without stealing Nexon's data. Created a highly refined Dark and Darker game, extremely similar to P3 game, that they don't actually know what it would have even looked like. They don't even know what their own game was, but yet they look extremely similar. And it's also impossible that Dark and Darker was made in a year. And then they conducted user testing and is now about to release it. So Nexon has suffered great losses, while Iron Mace and the defendants are on the verge of releasing the game and acquiring illegal profits. So urgent action is required about this. Bullshit, Nexon. Okay, so here's more actual claims. So this is all just fluffery. Them just saying, woe is me. Iron Mace bad. In July 2021, Nexon filed a criminal complaint against Mr. Choi, true, for infringement of trade secrets, and applied for a provisional seizure. All the provisional seizures were granted and enforced. Okay. So what was the outcome of those? And on March 2023, and early March of 2023, the seizures and search was carried out by issuing a warrant from the Seongnam Branch Court of the Suwon District Court. Blah 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 blah. Legalese dated March 8th, 2023. Police seize and search Iron Mace. So they searched Mr. Choi's home and Iron Mace in March. Okay. On March, also filed a provisional seizure against Mr. Park. So they also searched Mr. Park's house for trade secrets, which was also enforced. In addition, I did not know that. So they searched Iron Mace, Park, and Mr. Choi. That's crazy. I did not hear that they searched Terrence. So on cool site enforced. In addition, Nexon company requested a takedown under the United States Aluminum. Yep. From Valve Corporation of the United States, an operator of Steam. And that was dated March 27, 2023. Nonetheless, Iron Mace is rushing to release the game with no regard of the issues raised, legal actions, etc. regarding the unlawful conduct. So this is also not true, because the playtest 5 was already scheduled, and they don't mention this. Since then, they actually have delayed and have been lawfully conducting business by not releasing early access, and have been listening to everything. So the exact opposite of what this claim is saying is true. They're not rushing to release. They're not completing early access because they've already missed deadlines. They've already missed, what was it, May? It was like April or May was supposed to be early access. And they're not doing any more testing. At least to the best of my knowledge, they haven't announced anymore. So this is not true in the latest, or in the least. In addition, So, addition, Iron Mace filed a lawsuit against Nexon for copyright infringement, or Nexon filed a copyright against Iron Mace for copyright infringement, confirmation and business. Oh no, yeah, I had it right the first time. Iron Mace filed a lawsuit against Nexon for copyright confirmation and business obstruction prohibition on March 31st. So they filed a lawsuit in Korea. Iron Mace did 4 days after the DMCA went out in Suwon. So I'm gonna copy that. So 4 days after the DMCA, without any proper contents. So they're saying that their lawsuit is invalid. Nexon is trying to say that Iron Mace's lawsuit is invalid, and filed for an application of temporary injunction against business obstruction on April 10th. So I'm going to copy that as well. Cruising right along. So what Iron Mace is doing is ignoring the law and trying to make money by offering Dark and Darker game without that was created by infringing on Nexon's trade secrets. Blah 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 blah. Set up its own infrastructure so the company can release Dark and Darker at any time. So according to Nexon, Iron Mace is trying to set up its own infrastructure to release Dark and Darker whenever they want. Iron Mace has previously stated they'll provide early access. Dark and Darker starting in April 2023. That date is already come and gone. And have already conducted 4 rounds of testing, meaning that the Dark and Darker game 5 is very close to release, imminent, just around the corner. Nexon suffered tremendous harm as a result of Mr. Choi's unauthorized leaks. Still hasn't mentioned what these leaks are, including being forced to terminate the P3 project. They keep mentioning that, but they never mention what the leaks are. Iron Mace are seeking to gain illegal profits by forcibly pushing on the production and release of Dark and Darker game, which contains all of the key components of P3, despite the ongoing criminal complaint and investigation against Mr. Choi, as if they had lawfully taken over by succeeding the P3 project. This is an important case that is bound to have significant impact on not only the domestic game industry, but also all cultural industries. Hear that, guys? Anybody want to bet if they mention that the now CEO of Nexon Games went to prison for 2 years for doing exactly what they're claiming Iron Mace did, and then literally the gaming industry didn't change at all? You think they're going to mention that in Section 3 here? How dare they sue us for suing them? Outrageous and unfair. Exactly. We've suffered tremendous losses for playtests that have been free. Yeah, Nexon's a bunch. They're a bunch of turds. What up? What up, Aussie? What up, Aussie Pete? Aussie Peck? Don't know how to say that. Sorry if I butchered your name. We're just going over some documents from the Dark and Darker court case, trying to find discrepancies and stuff. This is the filing, the Korean filing for the injunction and lawsuit. So, like, you know how when Nexon sued Iron Mace in America, they filed that huge document with all that stuff? This is the same document, but for the Korean court case. Yeah, and I think we found like 14 errors in the past 5 pages. 7 pages? Sorry. 14 or 15 errors in the past 7 pages. So that should tell you how well Nexon is keeping track. And I'm not even like looking through this with a fine tooth comb, you know? Like this is just my initial read through. And I've found a bunch like 14 things in 7 pages. So there's at least 2 errors per page on average. Errors or misleading information so far. So yeah, this is an important case, or just like non-factual statements like this entire section. This is an important case that's bound to have significant impact on not only the domestic game industry, but also cultural and all cultural industries. If Iron Mace and Nexon's company's behavior is deemed acceptable, game developers will be able to work on a game project with a company with abundant infrastructure and support with no risk. And then when they think the project is going to be successful, they will be able to secretly leak project-related materials, have the development team leave en masse, and then produce and release the same game that infringes their trade secrets in order to reap the fruits of their labor. Huh. The fruits of whose labor? The people who were developing the game? And this type of behavior will become rampant and pervasive. Not even they think. This is definite fact, according to Nexon. Some hard statements by Nexon over here. I mean, who would know better than the guy who went to prison for exactly that same thing for 2 years, or for 2 years? That's now the CEO of a subsidiary company. Like, this is bullshit. Once that unfolds, the damages to a game company will be indeed staggering. Really, because NCSoft is dead, right? Once that unfolds, game, yeah, indeed staggering. It will be impossible to trust game developers to carry out projects. Internal agitation and conflict will be rampant, and there will there will be a pervasive perception that it is better to hijack a third-party project than to develop a game on their own at great expense and risk of failure for a long period of time. Furthermore, this symptom will not be limited to the gaming industry, but will appear in the entire content industry, which is produced with a large number of people and costs. It is crystal clear that the Korean content industry, which has been growing a lot, will not grow anymore and will stagnate. This is hard. This is legitimately hard for me to read. In addition to the legal aspects of trade secret infringement, Nexon is such a bunch of fuckers. These guys are pieces of shit. In addition to the legal aspects of trade secret infringement, copyright infringement, etc., this case is also very important to the point of view of the huge demand of iron or yeah, on Nexon, as well as the healthy growth of the Korean content industry. So not only will this damage Nexon, but the entirety of Korean content creation will crumble if Nexon does not win this case. All of Nexon, all of Korea will be lit ablaze, and there will be homeless people pooping in all of their mouths if Nexon does not win this court case. This is ridiculous. If Nexon does not win, Korea will fall to China in the next 2 years. North Korea will invade, and the world as we know it will be over. Like, what the fuck? How this has unfolded. Nexon and company's P3 project. Nexon started P3, or Project P, to develop a new FPS RPG genre game in August 2020. They don't say medieval. That's very important right here. They do not say medieval or fantasy. So They do not say medieval or fantasy in this. That is super important because they do not specify a genre. And if they meant for P3 or Project P to be a fantasy medieval FPS RPG, they would have added that into this. If from the outset it was supposed to be dark and darker, they would have mentioned that specifically right here because that would help their case immensely. However, in August 2020, they had no idea if Project P, according to their own document, all they knew about it was that it was a first-person RPG to develop a new FPS RPG. That's what their entire intention was for Project P. FPS RPG. That was it. That could be that could be a battle royale. That could be something like Division. That could be something like Wayfinder or what's the other game that's like Wayfinder? Warframe. It could be any of that stuff. Like FPS RPG is such a massive, massive, massive genre. They don't say extraction. They don't say battle royale. They don't even say medieval fantasy. That's incredible. And then they go on to add a P3 game has a basic storyline, a bunch of adventures, or hear rumors. So when did it change into this? When did it change? So you jumped directly from unknown FPS RPG from August 2020 into it is now it now has a basic storyline, and you're referencing two different things because this is Project P. You got to be very careful with this language here because they'll be sneaky. This is very, very sneaky. They've mentioned Project P right here, and now they've changed to P3 and are talking in the present tense because it has a basic. So they started development of Project P, and then it changed into whatever the fuck they're talking about here. A bunch of adventurers hear rumors of great riches to be had, so they form a band party and enter dangerous dungeons with monsters and escape alive with valuable loot. So that's very sketchy right there. Did I get that? So they changed it into P3, which was then some kind of fantasy dungeon related FPS RPG. So let's see what they have to say about that. Dude, Shanks for joining, dude. Fucking Shanks. Everybody say hi to Shanks. He was in my company on New World forever. He's a boss. He's also in some of my gameplay videos. Thanks for joining the guild. You didn't miss the TLDR. What's good, Shanks? Shanks is wizard extraordinaire. He's really good at blowing me up with fireballs. Yeah, me and Shanks, we had a company called the P-Toll Dancers. The Patrol Dancers on New World, US West. On Eldorado and Ptolemaeus and what was the other one? I don't remember. But yeah. New World's dead now. Or dying, unfortunately. Ptolemaeus? Pole dancers? Um But yeah, let's get back into P3. So eventually they changed it into some kind of dungeon crawly fantasy RPG. They don't say when. They don't give any frame of reference other than August 2020. And then they immediately go into like the present and don't give any frame of reference for timing on this. So when was it changed to be this? I have no idea. Raptor, what up, Raptor? Raptor was also there in the good old days of the P told answers. The homies. So what do they got to say about this? Fall into the genre of PvE, PvPvE, basically a competition between users, player versus player. However, it is also a genre that requires players to fight against the environment, e.g., monsters. Okay. FPS and RPG elements coexist. When defeating an opponent, you have to aim and hit them, not just show them an attack. To take them down, FPS genre, you have to grow and progress through the adventure by acquiring items. So, if you remember, gotta write this down. This is so. If you remember from my last video, Nexon's entire claim about character growth was leveling, and by increasing your health and skills and all that stuff. And now in the Korean one, they don't ever mention leveling. And this is the exact same portion that they would mention leveling in. Very strange. Very, very strange. Now it just relies on acquiring items, so your character growth is based on item gathering, on loot. And they also drop, look, multiplayer game with parties of up to 3 people, and the ability to interact with other players and a tavern and more. They, in the other document in the United States complaint, they say that both games started with 16 players. They have completely dropped that in their argument here. So their player count per match is now changed, or now it's just not there. So they're just omitting, they're just changing their information. Based on fantasy setting of the game, will feature a total of 6 classes: fighter, barbarian, wizard, rogue, cleric, ranger, with unique features, abilities, and users will choose to play as one of the 6 characters. This is also false. As seen by their copyright, rogue was thief, and fighter was whatever the hell a tanker is. So yeah, it's funny how they omitted tanker and thief entirely. Obviously, at the time P3 Project, there were no published games with all of these characteristics as of today. We know no such games other than Iron Mace's company Dark and Darker game. So the Nexon company assigned more than 20 dedicated employees to the P3 project, also proven false. They had 10 up until, according to them, the last month. And then 1.1 billion into development. So how much are they claiming to have put into this for development? 1 $833,000. So they claim to have put almost 900 grand into this game in a year. I wonder how much that was the salaries for 10 people. So if you think that 11 months of salary for people who are making 100K, or yeah, let's just say $70,000 times, that's what? divided by 12, so that's 5,833 a month times 11. So that's $64,000 per person. And do that by 11 because Mr. Choi plus 10 more people. That's $705,000 of that. So 700,000 of that at least was going to be, because I guarantee you Mr. Choi was making more than 70 grand a year. So at least about 700 to 800,000 of that was salary. So they left that little chunk out. Like, what are they thinking? Nick, thanks for the sub, man. I appreciate it. Like, this is freaking crazy. Thanks, guys. I honestly, like, you guys are gonna help me buy a new mic. You guys are gonna help me buy a second monitor. Like, I'm gonna dump any money that I make from this directly into two things: streaming and my game, and the community itself. I really want this. I want this channel to be, more like an infotainment channel, but I also want it to be a community for people to come, hang out, learn stuff about gaming. Like, I'm a huge nerd, man. Like, I got a tiny build hat. I used to go to PAX conventions and help market booths and set up booths for gaming companies up until COVID. Actually, I even went 1 year after COVID. It sucked. It was a madhouse. Um, but yeah, I used to do that, and like gaming has been what I do. Like either through video games or tabletop games. I used to write modules for Dungeons and Dragons. I write books in the lit RPG genre that are about video games. Like, this stuff is what I love to do, and I want to make a community for that. That's just like all about gaming and having fun, and you know, um, have a positive environment for gamers to hang out in. And you guys are kind of, you guys are directly responsible for making that happen. So thanks. Everything you guys do goes directly towards that. So, um, you guys are amazing. Right? Um, Demon Run. Yeah, their plans for progression were pay to win. So Jacob Lee, this is Nexons. Yeah. Yeah, so they claim to have paid almost a million. Enrico, they claim to have paid almost $1 million in development costs, but most of that was probably salaries. Thanks, Nick. I really appreciate it, and I love you guys too. IDK, like, you guys are all amazing. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna do project productions. I'm gonna be doing gameplay videos, build guides, all that kind of stuff too. I'm a huge theorycraft nerd. Shanks and Raptor know this. I'll sit there and go over numbers and like math stuff out for hours and have spreadsheets and stuff. Like, I did this for all of New World. Um, and I'll do all this nerd stuff for the best builds, the best like team comps, all that kind of stuff. I love doing that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna do videos on that. I'm gonna do videos on gameplay videos. You'll probably see Shanks, maybe Raptor if Raptor gets into Dark and Darker. Um, and my buddy Sugar, my buddy Feta probably will join us. Like, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this whole document right here is 200. As you can see up here, it's 213 pages, right? So I'm gonna break this down into sections. Right now, I'm just trying to get through this section. It's like 39 pages. I think I'm on page 10. I'm gonna start kind of skimming some stuff because it's already been like a few hours, and because we're finding so many mistakes, right? Um, like this was a huge mistake. The class professions has mistakes in it. Like, they don't even mention tanker and thief, which were their original class names. Um, they're reiterating the fact that they had 20 players on it, even though we know that they only had 10 for the majority of the lifetime of the development. In fact, if they had 20 people on it, this $900,000 would have been well over that. Um, 900,000, it would have been like $1 million. just because of salaries. Paying 20 people for a year is incredible, especially on developer salaries, even in Korea. However, about the end of June 2021, Nexon found that Mr. Choi, team leader of P3 team, leaked key materials such as game build files, source code, P3 game, unauthorized leaks, P3 game build files, source code, more leaked materials. They go over between, so this has already been reiterated. Security regulations. So Choi engaged in the practice of siphoning off key deliverables. Okay, so key deliverables, what are they of the P3 project for his own private use? And leaked how an enormous amount of P3 project related materials here and after as the subject of trade secret information. So this 11,602 pieces of leaked info has to be source code files. Has to. And I'm assuming that they're saying that he leaked them to himself. That's the only thing I can, unless, because they're not naming anybody that he gave this stuff to. So I don't get it. So, okay, here we go. More specifically, Choi unauthorized leaked 2,747 P3 project build files from the company's Jenkins server to his personal server, so he leaked them to himself. From April 4th, 2021 to June 18th, 2021. Log records file transfers from Jenkins server to Choi's account. Exhibit. Okay. So they're just counting all of the times that he sent himself build files to his home server as individual leaked trade secrets. So they're... This is fucking bonkers. To his personal server, personal server, personal server, personal server. 20 occasions. Yep. So yeah. So it's just build files that he had on that he was transferring to his personal server while he was working from home for COVID. These motherfuckers, dude. Sorry, I'm probably gonna get this video demonetized or some shit. Dropping too many F-bombs. Like I said, jabbering. What's up, Stellar? Oh yeah, like this is nonsense. Like the 11,000 leaked files are the 11,000 leaked trade secrets that Mr. Choi sent to himself on his personal server during COVID. That's their entire basis. That's their entire basis of the trade secrets clause, or part of the lawsuit. Yeah, so the last time he leaked files to himself was in June. And this is according to them. They have an exact date. May 31st to June 2021 to June 23rd, 2021. He wasn't fired until... No. They say that he was fired sometime around July of 2021. So that was he had files on him after he was fired. But they don't give an exact date of when he was. Sometime around July of 2021. They don't give an exact date. In no document have I seen an exact date of when he was fired, which is kind of important because early June is around around July. Like, this is a very close, very close timeline here, and for them to be admitting an important date like when exactly he was fired is very suspicious. And according to the one of the reasons why I'm going to review the actual official translated copy of their work contract, their employment contract, is because according to Mr. Choi, there's language in there that stipulates that he has to delete that stuff if he's fired anyway. So if he was just following his contract and when he deleted all that information, then I don't understand why people are saying this trade secrets stuff holds water. In July of 2021, Nexon learned of the above facts and requested Mr. Choi return the subject trade secrets information. So they wanted the data back, but instead Mr. Choi refused to do so and deleted all materials on his personal server because his contract told him that he has to do that and he was being fired and possibly sued. If I'm going to be fired or in the process of being fired and possibly sued, and I have a bunch of company data on my personal server, what am I going to do? Hand over my entire personal server? Go, here, Nexon, take my physical personal server from my house and bring it to your offices in Nexon to tear the whole thing apart and look through all of my personal data? Or am I just going to delete it? Like it says so in my employment contract. And even took elaborate measures to prevent forensic analysis of his server. Furthermore, from June 23rd to June 21st, or June 23rd, 2021 to July 25th, 2021, Mr. Choi conducted one-on-one interviews with all members of P3 team, with Mr. Park present on occasion, during which he encouraged P3 members saying, let's go out and develop a game similar to P3. And they're quoting him on that. So they're saying that this is what he said. It also mentioned attracting to who, though? They don't have a they don't cite that anywhere. So where is this quote coming from? Who did he say this to? Why don't they mention who they said that to? To team members, to P3 team members, but like there's no, where's the witness? Is there a witness? And why isn't the witness cited here? Are you going to bring them? Is this person going to come in as a witness? Like, because this is testimony. They're putting testimony, like actual testimony, into the document. I don't know if that's like illegal in Korea, but like you can't just insert unknown testimony into contract or into documents like that in the United States. That shit doesn't fly. There has to be some kind of like, this person said this and is willing to testify to this to the best of our knowledge that they know this is true under penalty of perjury. Like that kind of agreement has to be in this. Like, you can't just say that kind of shit. What the fuck, dude? So, Mr. Choi unauthorized leak Nexon trade secrets outside of designated location, so they sent him to himself. And he at one point had authorization to do so. So they don't mention that in this either. Failed to deny this unauthorized leak. And as a result, Mr. Choi was subject to disciplinary action, dismissed from Nexon around July 20. Yeah, around July 20. So they don't mention a date again. They mention a date here? Nope. Oh, disciplinary committee transcript. This is juicy. Whoa, there's 51 people viewing. Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, if I'm not reading chat, like I have to jump back and forth between. I don't have a second monitor anymore. It broke. Um, right. Hearsay. um, yeah, testimony. Like you can't have unknown testimony from random supposed team members, and you can't have that kind of stuff in quotation marks like it's actually truthful statement when you don't have any idea who it is. You can't have that stuff in documents like that. Nerdy Man, that's super unlikely. They'd have to find ways to basically forge all of the modified on dates and stuff um that get assigned by the operating system when you modify stuff like that. So like they'd have to do a lot of work, and it would show in logs. So Necro, this is there we got a. It's not necessarily new. It was in. This is all information that was in the Jung Jun Jian declaration that was filed on June 22nd. But they have had some stuff translated. The court had some stuff translated and entered into the system by a court interpreter. Translated all this stuff and certified it under threat of perjury. So like this is all accurate and legal and valid. Like right, this is like reliable translation and localized. And right now this is like so right now we're reading through the Korean filing for their injunction for Nexon's. So this is Nexon's filing for their injunction against Iron Mace. And so far we found like a metric ton of discrepancies, and we're only 12 pages into a 39-page document. Like this is incredible. I might not even finish this whole document because it's already 11:30. And I still need to do a video. But yeah, this is nutty. But yeah, I'm gonna get through at least some of this disciplinary stuff. So Daekwon Kim, I don't know how to say that. Sorry, I am not fluent in Korean. Like I'm not good at this, and I'm butchering it, and I feel really bad about it. But doing my best. No, I was asking, did you copy that? The build will automatically go there too. Mr. Choi responded, the builds are automatically uploaded, right? Because we wanted to deploy. This is also something I asked, I'll just call them Zoom, and it was very slow for people to download from outside. I mean, if I downloaded through the Teams, or through Teams by those working from home, but of course, this is the first problem. In a way, people working from home downloading the build and testing it was something for efficiency. But now I think people here will say that, of course, you guys should have done it by remote connection. And like I said, that's my fault, but the process was so slow that I had to transmit it over FTP to be able to test it. And I'm not sure everyone on the team is aware of that, because if I'm going to test it at 2, and I'm now going to kick off a test mode to proceed, downloading comes in and takes time, and we won't end up starting until 2:30. That happened quite frequently. So people would say like, "Oh, it's so slow and so inconvenient. It's so slow," and we kept saying that a lot. So we tried to figure out how to fix it, and that's what we did, because there's no support that we can get from outside the company. So what Mr. Choi is saying here is basically, he copied the game files to his personal server because it was taking a half an hour just to start up testing. Like if I was to start up the test on to run a test play on my game, it would take like 30 seconds. But it was taking them like half an hour because they would have to transmit it over FTP. So They were trying to get it from the Nexon server to transmit over a secure line to their personal computers at home was taking forever. So what Mr. Choi did was he downloaded it to his personal server so he could test, and so that his team could just connect to him in a secure server and test from his personal server, which was probably much closer, right? Or I don't know why. Apparently much faster. And then Kim says, it's not like that we don't have support, but we've been telling you not to do it security-wise. It's all about trade-offs. And Mr. Choi says, well, that was a mistake on my part. Like I said a moment ago, I was too greedy and I was too complacent about security. And then they skip an entire section and go into, I wonder what they skipped and why. Wouldn't it be clear just to open that up so we can be sure? Or that's from King, and then Mr. Choi says, as to me giving it to you now, I can do it now, but I've already deleted everything. But if you want to see that, at least even that, then I could give you that. I've already cleaned up all my personal equipment, all the computers that were used there. There's nothing left from my point of view. And he offered to give them to him to inspect right there. And then they skip another section. So I don't see how this is damning. He was supposed to delete all these according to his employment contract. That's what he was authorized to do by a Korean lawyer. Then Mr. Kim says, from the audit, did you say anything to Mr. Zhu about what it would mean if it were here to remove the material? Lee says, yeah, we do. Kim says, what did you say? Young says, I mentioned that it could be seen as an attempt to spoil evidence, and I mentioned that the server itself would have to be given to us without any data being manipulated or deleted. So you deleted it even though you'd heard enough about it, and Mr. Choi says, I didn't think of it as spoliation of evidence. And that's where they end that segment, and there was probably more after that. And they skipped a bunch of stuff. But what we do know from Mr. Choi's declarations is that his lawyer, when he was fired, he contacted a lawyer and an employment lawyer, and the lawyer said, no, your contract says if you have any Nexon data on your computer, you need to do one of two things: delete it or turn it over. They're asking you to turn it over, but I recommend deleting it because you don't want to give them any access to your personal information. And as long as that holds up in their employment contract, then he did nothing wrong. And he did nothing wrong according to their own statement. Just because they didn't want him to do it, he can't violate his own contract. Like, that's bonkers. And if he's being advised by a lawyer to do something, like, you listen. If I had a lawyer, if I was getting fired from whatever job, say I worked at Best Buy, and I had if I had company information from Best Buy on my personal computer, and my employment contract said I either give my computer to Best Buy or delete their information off my computer, and my lawyer said delete it, I'd be deleting it that second. Like, I don't understand what do they think he did wrong here? Other than taking the information when he wasn't supposed to begin with. Like, yeah, sure. But the whole deletion of this whole part where he's spoiling evidence of what, A, and this was in his contract. And where are all these I don't know, man. This whole thing is getting shadier and shadier. Refusal to return subject trade secrets information, deletion thereof. Nexon was unable to determine whether the trade secret information had been further leaked to a third party, and P3 project was discontinued because Nexon company was unwilling to take the risk of someone obtaining the above information and releasing a game similar to P3. P3 game first, thus preempting the market. So they think, according to this statement, Nexon thinks that if Mr. Choi had released that information, the build files of P3 to a third party, that the third party could have taken the game that they've been working on for a year and somehow made it before they made P3. Yet they also claim that doing the same exact thing that they're talking about was literally impossible. They said that earlier in the same exact document. So they're arguing at one point that what Iron Mace did is literally impossible, taking P3's source files and making the game before they could complete P3. They said that that was impossible, but now they're saying they discontinued Project P3 because they were afraid of that happening. What backwards nonsense is this shit? Like, do their lawyers not even remember what they're arguing? Like, they've changed. This is only Section 3. In Section 2, they argued one thing, and in Section 3, they're arguing a complete another. Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Uh, they can't make Dad fast. They can't make Dark and Darker faster than we were going to make P3. That's impossible. But we also can't make P3 because we're afraid somebody's going to make it before us, and they stole our information. Like what the heck are they talking about? They're arguing against themselves right now. Demon Run. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. I've been training for a marathon for 2 years now, but I told my friend how to train, and they just started, so I gave up because they'll do it before me. Like I like this is wild. This is literally wild, and I don't understand it. I don't understand what they're doing. Like Nexon is ridiculous. I've heard 10-year-olds lie better than this. Like legitimately. I've heard 10-year-olds that can keep their story straight better than they can. This is insane. Hold on, I'll be right back. I gotta use the restroom again. Drinking too much iced tea. Yeah, this is bonkers. Okay, let me check on the comments and what's up. Um, I'm in court. Lack of X evidence. You can only trust what's right, and it usually gets exposed pretty good in court. Yeah, this is. I mean, did it's just like did they think that people weren't going to read any of this? I mean, they probably weren't imagining people like me and One Pig doing this kind of stuff, but like obviously Iron Mace's lawyers are going to read this. Like this is nuts. Um, so Mr. Park departed from Nexon in August 9th. Also, this is still bugging me. Why do they have Terry's the day Terry quit, and they don't have the day that Mr. Choice fired? I'm not going to get over that. Um, before I forget, I'm gonna Ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Yeah, these guys are... Nexon's insane, man. Like, this is crazy. Um, so the game wasn't... So Iron... Dark and Darker was unveiled on August 19th, bearing a striking resemblance to P3, not only in basic story, genre, and concept. This is genre part is wrong. But also in specific game components and even many of its images. I'm going to copy and paste that. Real quick. I'm reading and taking notes at the same time. So, Iron Mace unveiled Dark and Darker game less than a year after its establishment, while the P3 game was unveiled on August 5th, 2021, merely with a short video about 35 seconds to some reporters, but no specific planning contents, artwork. Yeah, there was artwork, source code, etc. revealed at all. And 17 until now, no game with the same concept or genre as P3 game has been released. This is wrong because they don't even know what genre, they themselves don't even know what genre the game was in. Nevertheless, since two games are extremely similar, it is clear that Iron Mace used or consulted for the reference, the planning documents, planning contents, artwork, source code, etc. of P3. As Nexon company feared, Iron Mace company, through Mr. Choi, fraudulently obtained and used Nexon's company's trade secret information. So this is just the Trade Secrets Act. The use of trade secrets is an act that can be specifically identified. The act of using trade secret includes... So yeah, this is, in other words, with its possession of legal authority, that even more consulting trade secrets references. So they're just referencing law here. I'm going to start skimming through this part of it. They reference specific Supreme Court decision, June 1998. 98 DA 1928. Yeah, so there's referencing, this is like how you do, so like this right here. It's, I think it's like the date and then the district and then the case number in Korea. So they're just citing cases. I have no idea what those cases are about. Trade secret nature of the subject, trade secrets information, Mr. Choi's duty of confidentiality related to Nexon, such as game build files and the source related to P3 project, have been produced with the resources and expenses of Nexon company. Okay, that's irrefutable. And are important assets to Nexon, also irrefutable, to which Nexon company retains the rights, of course. In particular, that doesn't, so this doesn't, what they're not saying here is that this doesn't pertain to stuff they bought off the Unreal Marketplace. So this is left a little unintentionally vague, or a little intentionally vague, in particular in a field of games, materials such as game build files and source code projects. In the process of development are core trade secrets that must never be leaked to the outside world. Remember, guys, if trade secrets are leaked and Nexon loses this case, North Korea is going to absorb South Korea. and the rest of the world's going to catch on fire. Remember, guys, that's according to Nexon. In addition, Nexon Company has effectively implemented technical, administrative, and physical security measures. So what they're saying is that they did due diligence to make sure that none of their files leaked. And information protection regulations, the thoroughly implemented security measures. They have to say that because of if they didn't adequately protect their information, it can't be considered a trade secret. It's like if I made hair products and beard products, right? So if I would have posted my recipes for those products online, and just gave them out, I can't also then claim them to be trade secrets and then sue somebody for using them because I freely gave them away, right? There has to be some sort of adequate protection to make sure that those things stay secret. And if there's not, you can't really sue somebody for it. Employee of Nexon, Mr. Choi, is obligated to keep important assets and trade secrets of these companies secret, to not disclose, divulge them to any third party, or use them for purposes other than company business for the benefits of third party during his employment and thereafter his departure. Mr. Choi's obligations are also set forth in the Information Protection Pledge signed by Mr. Choi, as well as Information Protection Regulations, Security Guidelines, and Annual Salaries and Employment Agreement. So those are both in this, and I'm going to probably go over those in another live stream. But I'm going to go over this right here. So Plaintiff Exhibit number 20, at 1, Information Protection Pledge from Mr. Choi. So this is just an excerpt. I want to go over this in full in another stream. But it states, I will not access any information or facilities that the company has not expressly authorized me to access, and I will comply without fail with the company's regulations, guidelines, and procedures, etc., related to this information protection, hereinafter referred to as the Information Protection Policy. And if necessary to protect the company's trade secrets, its scope will include the internet, telephone, electronic documents, including email, messenger, fax, content, and information sent and received, etc. I accept that the company may impose certain restrictions or controls on the use of communication facilities, such as email, blah, 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 hereinafter referred to as electronic documents, etc., and I consent that the company may impose such controls in compliance with the applicable procedures only in case that fall with the purpose of set forth company's information protection policy. Sorry, guys. Had a little brain fart. So that's, yeah, so he agreed to not be dumb with their information. Okay. But that's only an excerpt, and then they skip a bunch of stuff. And they go, here's so here's section 2. They skip 3 other sections and go straight to section 5. Under the same exhibit. So employees shall not disclose company confidential information acquired during their employment to third parties. So but he didn't. He disclosed this with himself and other members of his team that were still working at Nexon at the time. So employees shall not disclose the company's confidential information acquired during their employment to third parties, neither during their employment nor after departure. Employees shall not bring a third party's trade secrets or the company's trade secrets into the company or take it out of the company without permission of the rights holder. So they leave out the part where he's expressly told to delete this stuff. And they leave out most of the document and only cite these two portions, these two parts. Good job, Nexon. Partial information. Good lawyering. Trade secrets infringement by Mr. Choi. In light of these circumstances, it is clear that Mr. Choi had the purpose of obtaining unfair profits or causing damages. That's an assumption. That's not true. To Nexon Company by leaking and referring to the subject trade secret information, which involved Nexon's company resources, efforts, and expenses to develop a game similar to P3. Also not true. They don't know. Even though Mr. Choi had an obligation to keep the subject's trade secrets information secret in relationship, he violated obligations for unjust purposes. Also, they don't know. They're just kind of making shit up. Leaked the subject trade secret information to himself, to a private server that was easily accessible from the outside. Not true. He said that he claimed to have had proper security in place and developed a Dark and Darker game with. And he also offered for them to take a look at his server to see what those security measures were, and they said no. Nexon said no. What's up, bird? Mr. Park would have had access to those trade secrets anyway because he was on the same team. And he actually left after all of this stuff was resolved, so that's just not applicable. As described later in paragraph 4, these acts constitute trade secrets infringement under Article 2. So, if this statement, for it to be true, Mr. Park, Terry, would have had to not have access to build files on the game he was working on. Because all of the trade secrets in question are build files for the game. In the complaint in the United States, there's a file that, I mentioned this earlier, that has a bunch of images that are supposed to be P3 data. And on the letterhead of that file, it says that the file itself was built by Terrence Park. And then it has a modified by, and the name is blurred out, and then it has a modified on date, and the date is blurred out. So they're trying to say that Mr. Choi broke he disobeyed his company contract and violated his obligation to Nexon by sharing his files from the personal server with Mr. Park. So, however, Mr. Park, Terrence, also worked on P3, also worked for Nexon until August, and he also had access to the same build files because he authored some of them. Like, their entire argument is just like, I haven't found a single super damaging piece of evidence in this entire thing. Has anybody else? Like, anybody else see? Anybody else see? Has anybody seen anything damaging? I haven't. Like, I'm being honest. Like, if I haven't really seen anything super damaging, even in the bits of the employment contract that Nexon cited, a lot of this stuff is contradictory. It just this is literally insanity. So now they're going on to Terrence, how he violated the trade secrets. So Mr. Park was on the same P3 team as Mr. Choi, of course. That's why he had access to those files. And as was well aware that the subject trade secrets information was trade secret of Nexon company and should not be leaked to the outside world. That Mr. Choi had engaged in unauthorized so they're claiming that Terry knew that Mr. Choi was leaking the trade secrets. And my assumption is that their connection to that is because Terry was probably connecting to Mr. Choi's server to test the game that he was working on from home and to access the build files that he needed to change to work on the game from home. Nevertheless, Mr. Park and Iron Mace acquired build files, source code, etc. of P3 project, which are trade secrets. They don't know this, which are trade secrets and are core assets of Nexon company from Mr. Choi, and then used or consulted them for their reference to develop Dark and Darker. They don't know this. This is all speculation and hearsay. Which is very similar to P3, and they don't even know what P3. They themselves don't even know what P3 was going to look like. Which constitutes trade secret infringement under Article 2. of the Unfair Competition Prevention Act, if true. If any of this hearsay is true, then yes, it would fall under this. This is going to be a big task for Nexon to prove a lot of this stuff, especially with the contradictory statements that they're making. Like they're contradicting themselves and kind of fighting both sides. It's like Nexon is the plaintiff and the defendant in the case, and they're fighting against each other in their own statements. It's weird. As explained earlier, in light of the facts, among others, that Iron Mace developed Dark and Darker game only about 9 months after establishment. It was actually more like a year, despite being a new company with no resources. They had like $300,000 donated or given to them through investment from their families. So it's not no resources. That's a third of the money Nexon is claiming to have spent, and they weren't taking salaries. So they actually had more money. If you take away the salaries, they spent more. Were able to spend more money just on the game than Nexon was able to. It's very similar to Dark and Darker game, even though the details of the P3 game have never been disclosed, and there has never been a game with the same concept. The details were the details of the game were exposed. They had 3 separate Korean articles explaining what the game is, and with pictures, so it was disclosed. Also, the genres between P3 and Dark aren't the same. That's already been disproven. And there's already plenty of battle royales. There's just not really fantasy battle royales. P3 game and Dark game are very similar, kind of, especially in terms of design elements. Yes, to the extent that it is difficult to bring them into existence without consulting Nexon Company's materials for the reference. That's hearsay. Speculation. And 3, that the yet to be proven. The contents of P3 game can be fully understood from materials like leaked by Mr. Choi. Yeah, this is just a huge nothing burger. User reactions to Dark and Darker game development period. Other responses include, it takes a lot of time to build a worldview from scratch and brainstorm. It doesn't make sense to alpha test in less than a year. We should lean... So who is this? Who is this from? We should lean on not just the source code issues, but also whether the conceptual framework of the game is also stolen. Whose quote is this? Is this the Nexon devs quoting? The quality of the game was too perfect for saying that it has been made in a year. Battleground. Whoa, hey. So it was a battle royale. Similar short-term development, asset purchase, etc. I used to bust servers day in and day out. Lol. Well, who is this? If I wanted to claim they made it in a year, they should have had a little bit more fluff, but they didn't. So there's that. No wiggle room. Lol. Who even is this? So these days for larger projects, the planning phase takes freaking long. Like a game with 5 billion, 10 billion won in some cases during the course of developing just one project. I don't even know who is saying this. I don't know who this is. Do you get upended several times, meaning it takes several years to build it? But now... I don't know where any of this information is from. And they don't cite... So they're just throwing random quotes into their argument here? Comments, it takes a lot of time to build. Users? What users? Who are these users? A similar genre game formerly known as Project P3. I thought it was in development and then canceled. It is actually, hello everyone, it is indeed exactly the same. Oh my god. PM, this is evidence? Blocked out, copy pasted screenshot messages with an image from their article? What is Nexon doing? So this isn't even the same bug. This isn't in P. This isn't in Dark and Darker. They don't do any side-by-side comparison. It's all P3. Here we go. Then they go over this shit again, which I've already covered. They take out the leveling again. Yeah. They say the game structured in multi-level inverted pyramid structure. When the game starts, users randomly place the edge of the top level. From what I understand and from what somebody said later in the document, either Mr. Choi or Mr. Park say that the levels were all one level. So you start off by the top, and then there's literally downstairs, and then you keep going downstairs and downstairs and downstairs. There was no like portal to the second map. It wasn't like an entirely different map. It was just like you go downstairs. That's what they mean by this. And they're comparing that to the portal stuff from Dark and Darker. Uh, Dreamer, honestly, this I haven't seen anything super incriminating in anything Nexon has released. Bob B, sorry you fell asleep. I mean, I'm glad I could put you to sleep. My ASMR career is taken off, right? Um, Basically, we're looking through a 39-page document of the complaint that Iron Mace or Nexon filed in Korea. It has been translated by the U.S. court and submitted as evidence by Iron Mace for the dismissal process. Because it's the same court case, they're trying to get it dismissed, right, between the United States and Korean courts. They're trying to get the United States one dismissed so it could be bounced to Korea, where it's a lot cheaper and faster to litigate. It's also more impactful litigation over there because both companies are based in Korea. So this is the Korean injunction filing by Nexon. And I'm going through and taking notes and kind of seeing where they are, what Nexon is messing up. And we're at page 25 of 39, and I haven't seen anything super damaging from Nexon, like damaging against Iron Mace, but I've seen a lot. I think we're at probably like 20 or more pieces of incorrect statements, just straight up mistakes on dates, omitted information, contradictory statements in the same page. Like there's a lot of, like, Nexon has messed up like 20 to 25 times. There's like one mistake per page, I think, on average so far, or more. Like it was like one or two per page, like a mistake, or omitted, like a fact that was omitted, or just an invalid statement. There's a lot of shit that Nexon is messing up, and it's been pretty bad against. Like this looks really bad for Nexon. It looks like their lawyers are incompetent. It looks like their lawyers are really good at making very long documents and charging their clients a lot of money, and probably getting settlements by just arguing every point of, or every side of every point that they possibly can. and just to draw stuff out. Where the game starts. So they changed. Yeah, again, we kind of went over this earlier. They changed in the U.S. Complaint. They said that both games start with 16 people per map. And then Iron Mace said no. P3 started with 100 people per map, and now that 100 people per map is being omitted in Korea. So they changed their story there. They've also changed fighter or tanker and thief officially to rogue and fighter in Korea, which didn't happen until after P3 was canceled. They retroactively changed it to fighter and cleric to better match the lawsuit. So this is falsified information. Like, here's 2 just in this page. Whatever this dark brick stuff. The potions. This I went over in my last video. Are carried on your pack, and oh, hey, they don't talk about the glow in this one. I wonder why. Because the glow came standard with the fucking potion pack that they bought. They tried to argue in the United States case that the glow for the potions took them like 6 months to create, but it comes standard in the potion pack that they bought. So it was just straight up a lie. And now it's removed from the Korean document. Like, there's a lot of suspicious stuff here. As such, Mr. Park, always subject to trade secrets, blah, 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 blah. After obtaining build files, P3 would trade secrets, core assets, company from Mr. Choi, use them to develop a game called Dark and Darker. In order for a work to be protected under a Copyright Act, it must be a work of authorship failing within the scope of literary, academic, and artistic works, Article 2, subparagraph 1 of the Copyright Act. And as such, its originality is a requirement, but originality here does not refer to originality in full sense of the word. In order to fulfill this requirement, it is sufficient if the work is endowed with the characteristics of being the product of the author's own mental efforts and distinguishable from the existing works of another author. In my opinion, Dark and Darker is very distinguishable from P3. So this can kind of be argued both sides. I don't understand what I understand what they're getting at, but I don't think this is going to be super helpful for Nexon. Copyright infringement of GameWorks and GameWorks, also known as GameWorks, and its decision in June, hereinafter referred to as the King.com decision. In the King.com decision, the Supreme Court stated the legal principles that in determining whether a game is creative, it is certainly necessary to consider not only the originality of each of the components that make up the game, so the assets themselves, but also whether the components as they are selected, arranged, and combined in the process of technical implementation according to a certain production intention and scenario come together as a whole to the extent that the game itself has creative originality, personality that is distinct from other games and has arrived at the level of deserving protection as a work. So, because there's no way in hell that their copyright stands based on merit of the assets themselves individually, right? Because they don't own any of the assets. They didn't make anything. But they do, P3 does own how they all fit together. However, it can be very easily argued that P3 and Dark and Darker are not even in the same genre or of similar type of game. They're just, they look the same because they're using the same assets. In particular, by explicitly referring to rules and their selection, arrangement, and combination in the determination of substantial similarities where only expression is to be judged, the court recognized that the game rules, once embodied, can become expression, not just remaining in the realms of identities. So how did the Supreme Court of Korea rule? The defendant's game used the same selection of arrangements and combination of key technically implemented components. So they highlighted the part they want you to read and then stopped highlighting right about here, except for components, because none of these components were actually implemented in P3. Or they may or may not have. But from the best of my ability, but the best of my knowledge, they weren't implemented because they didn't have a functional build. They had a rough list of assets that they may or may not use, and a rough build. They had just started kickoff when the game was canceled. They were a month after kickoff when the game was canceled. So they had a rough, non-playable build. So none of these key components, or most of the key components, weren't even implemented. And implemented, for some reason, in this document is not in bold. I wonder why, Nexon. Based on the creative production, intent, and scenario plaintiff game by introducing the hero mode, battle levels, egg collection rules, whatever. So the King decision was a stretching judgment rather than categorizing game rules as ideas, and judged the originality of the game based on the integral set of components represented in plaintiff's game, and ultimately overturned the trial court's decision denying copyright infringement and upholding the defendant's copyright infringement of the plaintiff's game. This is speculation. Anything good in it? No. Creative originality, P3 games. P3 games are based on story arc, whereas a bunch of adventures, okay, they already went over this. In a dark dungeon. Sense of urgency due to threats from other users or monsters. P3 game have a variety of components that amplify the sense of urgency and make them more fun to play. P3 allows multiple players to participate in a single game and form parties or alliances of up to 3 players. At this time, each user party can observe what classes or equipment other users and parties are utilizing in the tavern and consider their strategy when encountering them in advance. The dungeons in P3 have a multi-leveled inverted pyramid structure. When the game starts, users are randomly placed at the edge of the top level of the dungeon. Each user then explores the interior of the dungeon to obtain loot, and after obtaining loot on a particular floor, the user can choose to move on to the next floor and attempt to obtain greater loot or be satisfied with their performance so far. Cool, but it doesn't say if they can extract or not. There's no mention of extraction here or leaving. Cool, I'm decided that I'm satisfied, but does that mean I can leave? It doesn't explicitly say that I can leave here, because it was a battle royale. When users are dueling with other users or monsters, they cannot simply press the attack button to attack the opponent, but must aim and hit the opponent accurately. An element of the FPS genre. Okay, whatever. So they don't mention full loot, I don't think either. So users will grow along with their adventures by acquiring various items, weapons, shields, shoes, potions, keys, etc. that are pre-positioned in the dungeon RPG. So all of the loot and stuff was pre-positioned, which is very different than Dark and Darker, because stuff changes. There's like loot tables for the chests and stuff, and the stuff that is world dropped changes. It's not always static. In other words, if players only seek safety without making efforts to acquire items, the players will be at a disadvantage in competition with other users, so users will constantly take risks to pursue growth. Dark dungeon, yada yada yada. Hunt, battle, find items with limited vision. Interactions. So this argument has... So this, they don't even mention the glowing potions again. They added some argument about the interactions and how they're similar. There's interaction modes in like almost every game. Modern Warfare 2 has an interaction system. view this with simple operation. It takes a certain amount of time. Therefore, the same reason 6 above the component about wearing, replacing the equipment increases the attention of users. That happens in a lot of games. So they removed the part about leveling that they mentioned in the United States claim. Like, there's just so much. Okay, here, wait, what's this? Maximize the characteristics of the game. Both mentioned in addition, when you obtain a potion, you can carry it on your waist. The potion then glows. Here we go. Glows when you are in the dark. Buffs have a bubble-like visual effect when acquired. Can restore health when resting in front of campfires. Skeleton soldiers, skeleton archers, blah 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 blah. Cave trolls are used as rank and file monsters, and wraiths, cave trolls, etc. are used as boss level monsters. So this glow that they're referring to comes pre-installed on the potion pack that they used, the liquid pack that they used. The above, they don't mention that here, obviously. The above components are selected, arranged, and combined according to the scenarios intended by the game developer based on the basic story concept of P3. Great impact on user experience. So they're trying to say that all of this stuff was intentional. So basically what they're trying to prove here is that all of their design choices are actual design choices, not just like coincidence. But a lot of the stuff that they picked, so the skeletons, every single one of the skeletons is part of one of two monster packs. The red and black skeletons are part of the Skeleton Wizard monster pack. The wraith, the normal skeleton, along with a lot of the other monsters are from this the Monster Mega Pack on Unreal Marketplace. Cave Troll is purchased off Unreal Marketplace. Unreal Marketplace. The Wraith is part of the Monster Mega Pack on Unreal Marketplace. Like, none of that stuff's original, and they didn't even modify most of it, from what I can tell from P3. And in their screenshots that are supposed to be from P3, they're not even screenshots from P3. They're screenshots from them that are being pulled from Unreal Marketplace and then shown as being from P3, which is why they probably don't show them here. But yeah, this is scenario intended by the game developer based on basic story. Yeah, this is dumb. They're omitting a lot of information here. It's like somewhat true, but it's omitting a lot of information and super misleading. It's not necessary for these components to be functionally implemented. Oh, here we go. It is not necessary for these components to be functionally implemented. So in a sense, P3 games are game creations without distinctive features and personalities that are distinctively different from other games. So if the game isn't even functional, none of this stuff is functionally implemented, they could say whatever the fuck they want about the game. They could say that it was a fantasy battle royale that was like Warzone. You know, they could say it was medieval Warzone. And then the very next day they could say that nope, it was Dark and Darker. Oh no, it's actually more like Warhaven, because none of it was actually implemented in the fucking game. There was no build. There was no like all they would have to do is basically show a roadmap. Like if they had a basic roadmap at like the most basic thing that you could have in game development, like if they had a roadmap of like, hey, where's their dev document? Like, why haven't they just shown their dev document? Because that would show you exactly what the game is. The dev document is what you pitch to your boss or to an investor that tells you exactly what the game is going to be. I have one. Like, it took me a day to make. It's not huge. It's pretty easy. So, like, where's their dev document? Where's the roadmap? Where's any of that stuff? Are we just supposed to take them at their word? Because none of this stuff was implemented according to them. They argue that it's not necessary for it to be implemented. They could literally just be making all of this stuff up. and to them that's okay. This right here is a massive, massive red flag for Nexon's case. This is unreal. For them to blatantly put it in this right here is incredible. This is like what, how in the world, if an injunction does happen next month, I will shove my head into a microwave because this entire document feels like it right now. Um, like, am I wrong? Like, I would love to hear anybody's opinion. Like, the document's pretty much done. The next is just closing statements and stuff. So it's like the similarities, they've already went over that a million times. Visual design, the monsters are extremely similar. Application of each class, shape of the torch, hand gestures. This is all stuff that they've went over in other stuff. There's nothing really new here except for this King.com. I'm gonna have to look into this King.com decision in Korea. Um, but yeah, that's insane. Yeah, then it's just reasoning why they want. Okay, yeah. So the rest of it is just conclusions and uh, explaining exactly how they want certain stuff to be handled should they win the case or should they win the injunction. So, wow, we just went through a 40-page document. Um, like I'm kind of speechless. That was insane. Sorry for like blowing into the mic, but that's incredible. Hey, bird, come here, come here, bird. Oh, there we go. That's better. Um, I mean, they have to have known that people are going to read this, right? Like they have to have known. Jesus Christ, what up, dude? I didn't know I'd be blessed by your presence today. Like somebody has to have read like that. I mean, I guarantee you, Iron Mace's lawyers are reading this and just laughing their ass off. Um, hey, don't mess with my straw. My cat loves straws and will just smack the hell out of them. But when she does, she gets all of her. She's a long hair cat, so she'll get all of her fur in my drink. Um, I guarantee you, Nexon proofread this. The problem is that they don't even know what the hell their own game was. I can like at this point, I'm fairly certain that they're just making shit up. Like I am 89% certain that it's Nexon CEO. It's like Nexon higher ups sitting with the last remaining 10 people that worked on the game for a month, just like trying to decipher shit that they don't know what it is and just literally winging it and just making shit up as they go along and just saying, no, dude, this is exactly like our game. This is what we were planning to do. See, we put it on a list that we were going to buy this troll. See, right here we have a list that says we were going to buy this troll, and they copied it, and we were for sure gonna change from a battle royale to an extraction, and we were definitely gonna change from 100 people to 16, like for sure. They just copied us, and they somehow managed to do it before us, even though that's impossible. It's yeah, it's just it's like So what this seems like to me is if I was a baker and I had an idea for a recipe and I listed out like the first two ingredients and it was like flour and water. And then I had an employee and I was like, "Yo, I got this idea for a recipe. The first two ingredients are flour and water." And then that employee went off and made a cake and started selling their own cakes and started their own bakery. And I was like, "Yo, dude, you started your own bakery and I see that your cake also has flour and water in it. I'm suing the shit out of you." Like, what? What? And then my entire thing was like, "Yeah, dude, you worked at my bakery and you knew I was going to put flour and water into my recipe that's not even done yet." Like, what the hell? Yeah, like I was about to put sugar in that too. Like, what? And it's like, of course you were, because cakes need sugar. Like, this is This is literally ridiculous. And then I just like went through and I was like, "Yo, what you got in your recipe?" And just started writing it down. And I was like, "Here's my recipe. This is what I was gonna make. See how similar it is." I think this ends in Korean court. And after reading more and more of Nexon's case, my opinion doesn't really change. I think that the end result of this case is going to be. I'm not going to read any more of this document, so I'm kind of just going to leave it here. I'll blow myself up. Um, but there we go. Now you guys could all look at my beautiful beard and my crazy hat. Um, but yeah, I think that the end result of this is going to be some kind of modified injunction in Iron Mace's favor. I think that Iron Mace will still be able to release their game. I think Dark and Darker will still release, but I think it'll be under. Um, thank you. Yeah, it matches my shirt. Uh, the shirt's um what the hell? Los Santos. What's that from? Um, can't remember. It's a game from a shirt, or a shirt from a game. I can't remember what the name of it's called. The hat I stole from my lady friend. She got it as a gift, and I was like, "That's mine." I think so. Yeah, it says keep. My shirt says "Keep It Strange, Santo." I got it at PAX West. From a booth I was helping out. Um, but yeah, I really think that some kind of modified injunction will happen in July, and I think that uh, Iron Mace will be able to release early access. I think they're just going to have to put up a bond in case they do end up going through the trial and losing. They're going to have some kind of bond um, in place to pay Iron Mace or to pay Nexon, right? Oh, really? Did I derp on the title and the? Oops. Oops. I will fix that right now. Thank you for pointing that out. Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty. I'll fix the. Oh shit, Kabin, thank you. That's a wizard certified beard. You guys are honestly, um, since I'm done kind of reviewing the things, I'll just kind of chat for a little bit. But um, this community is amazing. The Dark and Darken community is really cool. Um, I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I am very proud for uh, of what like the kind of the way that it's kind of condoned itself, right? Like everybody in the Discord and the subreddit are genuinely pretty cool people, especially the people that hang out, like not just in general, like general chat, but like in the off topic and stuff. Like everybody's pretty cool, and you guys have all been super supportive of me and my channel, and all of this information that I'm trying to get out. Like, um, I never really intended, like I said earlier, I've never really intended for this to kind of go anywhere. Um, I just started doing it because I wanted to get the information out there, right? And this is the way I knew how was YouTube, YouTube and posting the videos on Reddit and in the Discord. But yeah, what I'm seeing is incredible. I've jumped like 500 subscribers or almost 600 subscribers in the last 20 days. Um, I'm just made a YouTube partner. Um, I'm about to hit that 1,000 subs so I could get monetized. Um, and I just want to do my part. I just want to do my part and help the community. Um, and the support that you guys are giving me is blowing me away. I mean, these super chats and people signing up for the memberships is incredible. And I get people saying like I'm begging for subs and all that stuff, but like I say the stuff that I say because I'm honest about it. Like I genuinely appreciate you. Like I genuinely appreciate all of you guys and the community, and I want to help foster that uh that kindness and that sense of community, and you know fight for the games that we like. And Iron Mace's whole thing is fighting for people that um their whole motto is basically standing up for the little guy and trying to help save gaming, right? And that's one of the reasons why I started really looking into Dark and Darker, is because of how like their core values and their what they were about, what Iron Mace was about. It's one of the main reasons why I started like looking into the game. And I was like, we need more companies like that, and we need more people to support companies like that. Um, but to have that support also kind of go into what I'm doing is freaking incredible. Um, it blows me away. I was just talking with my partner yesterday, my girlfriend, and we were just freaking out because of. I mean, I know it's not a lot to some people. There's people out there with 1 million subs, but like the fact that I'm almost at 1,000 subs, we were freaking out. We were freaking out because of it. And like I'm just some weird dude that loves video games, um, chilling in his office, you know, with his cat, trying to make sense of this whole court case stuff and talking to my friends about it. Um, but yeah, I just want to do right by you guys because you guys are awesome, and you guys appreciate you. I appreciate you guys so much, and I want you guys to have good content. I want you guys to have honest information, and I want you guys to have a way to kind of filter out the bullshit, I guess, because there's a lot of bullshit, and I'm not really afraid to just like read through an entire freaking document and then be honest of what my opinion is, and I'll take the time to go talk to a lawyer and all that stuff just because I think that's what should be done. Um, so non-competes in the United States, Connor, and thanks Mateo, but so I saw Connor's point, but yeah, so non-competes in the United States are being abolished in a lot of states. Um, they're getting rid of them in Oregon, Washington, California, New York, and a bunch of other states. A lot of the progressive states are getting rid of. Um, they're just getting rid of non-competes, and then, from what I understand, Korea has gotten rid of non-competes, but they've baked them into the trade secrets laws. So there's like an aspect of non-competes like in the federal level laws in the trade secrets and competitive uh, practices laws. Yeah, and a lot of non-competes are straight up illegal. They're like unconstitutional. Like you can't you can't limit a person's free speech, a constitutional right through. You can't veto somebody's constitutional rights through a secondary contract unless they're a criminal. So, like, yeah, non-competes in the United States are very hard to uphold. But people are afraid, so they don't fight it. They're like, oh no, I signed a contract. And they don't know that their rights are being violated. But yeah, I'm going to look through some of these comments. But yeah, thanks, Allure. I'll change them. Stellar, thank you. Mateo, thank you. The hat and the beard. Yeah, I love this hat. I got two that I wear. I got three that I wear a lot. I have a Chicago Bears hat because I'm a huge Chicago Bears fan. I have a Walter Payton Funko Pop on my desk. And then I have a Tiny Build cap. Night Raptor. Yeah, we all want to play the game, Connor. Yeah, Stellar One Pig does give everybody. He gives you the information like really quickly, and he does a lot of his stuff on live stream. What he'll do is he'll take a live stream like I just did, and then he'll condense it down into like a 30-minute video, right? Like anywhere from like a 10 to 30-minute video. But it's mostly opinion, and he won't really take the time to explain the nuances. There's a lot more legalese and nuances that go into this kind of stuff, and a lot of the times One Pig won't explain that stuff. He'll just say like, "Here's my opinion. Here's what my opinion's based on. Take me at my word," right? And I like the dude. He's very good for like very easily digestible information, but sometimes he's missing a lot of the bigger picture, right? I honestly have no idea where this came from. My girlfriend got it as a gift. I could ask her to figure it out. Message me on Discord so I remember, and I'll try to get you the answer. Yeah, and Stellar, if you ever want to play, hit me up. I'm always down to play with whoever. I mean, I was literally playing Dark and Darker and Playtest 5 like for 12 hours a day. I was like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, you're not going to see me for like a week. So, see ya. And I just locked myself in my office and was like living Dark and Darker for a week. Being a little goblin. Yeah, it's nuts. I like the game is super addicting. It's crazy. Um but yeah, I think I'm gonna take a little I think I might call it a night here in a few minutes. Anybody have any questions or comments or anything? I gotta wake up pretty early tomorrow. It's already 1 tonight. I gotta wake up and go to the doctor's. I gotta try Chivalry too. I also gotta try like Diablo 4, or yeah, I gotta try the new Diablo, but I've been kind of protesting or boycotting Blizzard because they've been shady. Love you too, Mateo. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everything you guys do, man. Like you guys are insane, and I don't know. This is crazy. You guys are the amount of support and kindness that you guys have shown me is incredible, and it's just so appreciated. Heck yeah! If I get Chivalry, I'll hit you up for sure. Stellar, hit me up on Discord if you have it. So the injunction stuff should all. So the Korean injunction should go down July 19th. We should have more information about it by July 20th. The Korean documentation is a lot harder to get than the United States documentation because most of that stuff stays sealed until it's like been given the go ahead for release. And then the early case conference, which is when all of the pretrial hearings and stuff happen, will go down on for the United States. That we'll hear about that on July 26th, and that's when the dismissals and the injunction should happen. Um, so yeah, I mean, uh, that's kind of why my timeline. Personally, I think we'll know more about early access sometime between July 20th to 27th, specifically because of those dates. Um, I am going to do an updated timeline video going over that more in depth. That should be pretty short. And I'm going to give reasonings for why, and I'm going to try to predict the time frame for almost every step of the court so we kind of have a better idea. I predicted I was 6 days off from the date of the early case conference. So it's pretty close. So I could get us within like a week or two if I do it right. I could get us within like a week or two. Um so yeah, I'll get us a court update video on that for the timeline, and I'll try to get it as accurate as possible. I'm going to get a video going over the discrepancies in this, but that we went over today, but I'm going to try to get a few more articles and go through those, and I'm going to look for more information. But I'll stream tomorrow another article and go through those and do the same exact thing I did today. But yeah, any more questions? I'm going to head out in probably like a minute or two. When EA? Yeah, early access. We'll know more. July, my opinion, is probably around July 20th, 26th, or 27th. Yeah, good night, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Of course. Thanks, guys. Like, I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful night. Tadpole, Demon, Stellar, Mateo, everybody who came out. Thanks for joining the chat. Like, I love talking with you guys. So, honestly, half the fun is just coming in here and kind of chatting with you guys live on the camera, right? I'm super camera shy, and this is helping me get over it. But yeah, you guys are rad. Hanging out with you guys is cool. But yeah, have a good night, guys. Peace.